Welcome back to the Artificial Fluency Podcast. I'm Emma, and today's episode is all about a topic that's very useful in everyday life: how to make small talk with strangers. If you're someone who gets nervous or doesn't know what to say when meeting new people, don't worry. In this episode, I'll share some simple tips and real-life examples to help you feel more confident. Now, let's start with a few questions for you. Have you ever found yourself in a situation where you don't know what to say to someone you just met? Maybe you were at a party, or you were sitting next to someone on a bus or in a cafe. What did you do? Did you try to start a conversation, or were you too shy? Small talk is a great way to connect with people. It can be a little tricky at first, but the more you practice, the easier it becomes. And today I'll give you some simple phrases and stories to help you with that. For example, I remember when I first moved to a new city. I didn't know many people, and I felt nervous every time I had to talk to someone I didn't know. One day, I was at a cafe, and the person sitting next to me asked, "How's your day going?" At first I didn't know how to respond, but I smiled and said, "It's going well, thanks. How about you?" And that simple question started a nice conversation. We talked about the weather, the city, and even our favorite hobbies. That's all it takes sometimes. A simple question. In small talk, it's important to start with a friendly greeting. You can say things like, "Hi, how's it going?" "Hello, how are you today?" "Nice to meet you." Once you've started, you can ask easy questions. For example, what do you do for work? Do you have any hobbies? Have you been to this place before? Remember, the goal is to make the other person feel comfortable. You don't need to talk for a long time. Just a few simple questions and answers can lead to a nice conversation. Here's another story from my experience. I was at a park one afternoon, and I saw someone walking their dog. I decided to say hello and asked, "What's your dog's name?" They smiled and told me their dog's name was Max. Then we talked about how much we both loved dogs. We shared a few funny stories about our pets, and by the end of the conversation, we were both smiling and feeling happy. It was a simple exchange, but it was a great way to break the ice. Now, for you as a listener, think about these questions. What would you say if you were in a situation like that? How would you start a conversation with a stranger? Practice these simple phrases and see how easy it becomes. Now, let's talk a little more about how you can keep the conversation going once you've made that first connection. When you're making small talk, it's important to listen carefully to what the other person is saying. This will help you come up with new questions and keep the conversation flowing naturally. For example, if someone tells you they enjoy reading books, you could ask, "What type of books do you like to read?" Or, "Do you have a favorite author?" Listening is just as important as speaking when it comes to small talk. The more you listen, the more you'll be able to ask questions that show you're interested in what the other person is saying. Here's a simple story from when I made a new friend at the gym. We started talking because we were both using the same equipment. I asked, "How long have you been coming to this gym?" He replied, "I've been coming for about 6 months now." Instead of just saying, "That's cool," I asked, "What made you start coming here?" This simple question led to a deeper conversation, and by the end of the talk, we found out we had some common interests. Another important part of small talk is body language. A smile can go a long way in making you seem friendly and open. You don't need to be overly expressive, but showing that you're interested with your facial expressions and your posture can make the conversation more comfortable. A simple smile when someone says something funny, or nodding your head when they share something important, can make the conversation feel more natural. Sometimes, it's also nice to ask a question about something around you. For example, if you're at a cafe or a park, you could ask, "Have you been to this place before?" Or, "What do you think of the coffee here?" It's a simple way to start a conversation that doesn't feel forced. People like talking about things they know, and this gives them a chance to share their experiences. I remember once, I was sitting at a coffee shop and noticed a woman reading a book. I asked her, "What book are you reading?" She smiled and started telling me about the story. It turned out that we both liked reading mystery novels, so we ended up talking for about 20 minutes. It was an unexpected conversation, but it was enjoyable because we both shared something in common. When you ask questions, try to ask open-ended ones. These are questions that can't be answered with just a yes or no. For example, instead of asking, "Do you like coffee?" you can ask, "What do you like most about coffee?" or "How do you usually drink your coffee?" This encourages the other person to talk more and gives you more chances to practice listening and speaking. Here's an example of a small talk conversation at a park. You: "Hi, how's your day going?" Stranger: "It's going well, thanks. I just came for a walk in the park." You: "Nice, do you come here often?" Stranger: "Yes, I try to walk here a few times a week." You: "That's great. What do you like most about this park?" Notice how the conversation flows naturally. It's simple, and it doesn't take much to keep it going. The key is to show interest and ask questions that invite the other person to share more. One of the biggest fears people have when it comes to small talk is worrying about saying the wrong thing. But don't worry too much. Most people just appreciate when you make the effort to talk. If you're polite and show interest, the conversation will usually go well. And remember, it's okay if the conversation doesn't last forever. Small talk is meant to be light and casual, so don't feel pressured to keep talking for too long. A good small talk conversation can last just a few minutes, and that's perfectly fine. It's about making a connection, even if it's a short one. Now let's talk about what happens if the conversation starts to feel a little awkward. It happens to everyone. If you find yourself not knowing what to say next, try talking about something easy, like the weather or something happening around you. For example, "It looks like it's going to rain soon, doesn't it?" Or, "I heard there's a new restaurant opening nearby. Have you heard about it?" These types of questions can help get the conversation back on track. When I was at the supermarket last week, I noticed the person in front of me was buying a lot of vegetables. I said, "Looks like you're making a big meal." She smiled and replied, "Yes, I'm planning to make a vegetable stew." This simple comment turned into a longer conversation about cooking, and I learned some new recipes. It was just a little thing, but it helped us connect and have a pleasant conversation. Now, let's dive deeper into some more examples and tips that will help you make small talk with strangers in different situations. We've already discussed how to start a conversation, how to listen, and how to keep things going. But let's look at some more real-life situations where small talk can happen and how you can use these skills in everyday life. For example, let's say you're at a bus stop, waiting for your bus. You see someone standing next to you, and you feel like it might be a good opportunity to talk. What do? You could start by saying, "Nice day today, isn't it?" This is a great way to begin, because everyone can relate to the weather. It's a neutral topic that doesn't require any special knowledge, and it's something that everyone experiences. Once they respond, you can follow up with something like, "It's nice to have a break from the rain," or, "It's been so hot lately, I'm glad it's cooling down." One time, I was waiting at a bus stop and it was pouring rain. I turned to the person next to me and said, "I don't think I've ever seen rain like this before." She laughed and agreed. We ended up talking about how the weather had been so unpredictable that week. I also learned that she lived nearby and worked as a teacher. It was a simple conversation, but it helped me practice my English and made the wait feel shorter. Here's another example. You're at the supermarket, and you're looking at the fruits and vegetables. You see someone picking out some apples, and you decide to ask, "Are those apples any good?" This is a simple question that shows you're interested in their choice, and could start a nice conversation. The other person might respond with, "Yes, these are my favorite apples. They are really sweet and crunchy." You can then ask, "You eat apples every day, or do you prefer other fruits?" This question gives them the opportunity to share more about their preferences, and you might end up talking about food in general or other fruits you like. I once had a conversation with someone at the store about oranges. She told me that she loved eating them with yogurt in the mornings. I thought that was an interesting idea, and I shared that I like to add them to my smoothies. We both learned something new and connected over something simple. Fruit. These kinds of conversations are easy, and they help you practice English in real-life situations. But what if you're at a party or gathering and you don't know anyone there? It can feel a little more challenging to start a conversation in these situations, but it's still possible. You might start by introducing yourself and then saying something like, "How do you know the host?" Or, "How long have you been coming to these events?" This is a safe question because people love to talk about themselves and how they got invited to the event. I remember attending a friend's birthday party where I didn't know many people. I walked up to a group and asked, "How do you all know Sarah?" One person said, "We met at work," and another said, "We've been friends since college." This simple question helped me get to know everyone in the group, and soon we were all talking and laughing about funny stories from work and college. It was a great way to break the ice and make new connections. Sometimes you might find yourself in a situation where you need to be a little more creative to keep the conversation going. Let's say you're at the gym and you're talking to someone on the treadmill next to you. It can be awkward to start a conversation while you're both working out, but it's not impossible. You could say something like, "I always struggle with keeping a good pace on the treadmill. How do you stay motivated?" This question is easy to answer and gives the other person a chance to share their fitness tips. From there, you can ask about their workout routine, what kind of exercise they enjoy, or if they have any tips for staying healthy. One time, I was at the gym and I saw someone lifting weights. I wasn't sure how to start the conversation, so I just asked, "Do you have any tips for someone who's just starting with weights?" The person smiled and gave me a few pointers on how to improve my technique. We ended up talking about our favorite workouts and how we stay active. Even though I was a little nervous at first, asking a simple question like that made the conversation flow naturally. When you're making small talk with strangers, it's important to stay positive and keep the mood light. No one wants to talk about serious or negative topics, especially when you don't know the person well. So, try to avoid topics like politics, religion, or anything too personal. Instead, stick to safe, light topics like the weather, hobbies, food, or travel. Another great way to keep a conversation going is by sharing your own experiences. For example, if someone talks about how they went on a vacation recently, you could share a story about a trip you took. You might say, "That sounds amazing. I went to the beach last summer and it was so relaxing." Sharing your experiences can help build a connection and make the conversation feel more comfortable. I remember talking to someone at work about their recent trip to the mountains. She told me about the beautiful views and the hiking trails she went on. I shared my experience of visiting a national park, and we both started laughing about our funny travel stories. It wasn't a deep conversation, but it was a nice exchange that helped us get to know each other better. Let's also talk about the importance of giving compliments in small talk. Compliments are a great way to make someone feel good and show interest in them. For example, if you meet someone new and they're wearing a nice jacket, you can say, "I really like your jacket. Where did you get it?" Or, "That color looks great on you." Compliments can be about someone's appearance, their choice of clothing, or even something like their work. Just make sure the compliment is genuine and not too over the top. One day I met a new colleague at work, and I noticed he had a really cool watch. I said, "Hey, that's a really nice watch. Where did you get it?" He smiled and told me it was a gift from his wife. That led to a conversation about gifts, and we ended up talking about our favorite holiday traditions. Compliments don't have to be complicated, just a simple, sincere remark can start a good conversation. If you're ever unsure about how to keep a conversation going, try asking follow-up questions. For example, if someone tells you they love hiking, you could ask, "What's your favorite trail?" Or, "Have you ever been on a really challenging hike?" These follow-up questions show that you're interested in what they're saying and give them a chance to talk more. Remember, small talk is not about having a deep, meaningful conversation. It's about connecting with someone and having a light, enjoyable exchange. Even if you don't become best friends with the person you're talking to, small talk can help you practice your English and build confidence. So, as you listen to this episode, think about how you would use these ideas in your own life. What kind of questions would you ask? What would you say if you were in a situation where you didn't know anyone? By practicing small talk in these different situations, you'll start to feel more comfortable and confident in your ability to make connections with others. Alright, let's continue exploring how small talk can help you in even more situations and offer you more examples. This time, I'll break down different scenarios to make sure you know how to feel comfortable and confident when talking to strangers in various places, whether it's work, social gatherings, or casual everyday situations. The key to making small talk is finding common ground and being approachable, and that's what we're going to focus on. Imagine you're at a coffee shop and you see someone sitting alone with a laptop. Maybe they're reading or working. This is a perfect opportunity to start a conversation. You can start with a simple question like, "What are you working on today?" Or, "Is that a good book? I've been looking for something new to read." These are great conversation starters because they focus on something the other person is doing, and it shows you're interested in what's happening in the moment. Once sat next to someone at a coffee shop who was reading a book I recognized. I decided to ask, "Hey, is that book interesting?" She looked up and smiled, and that led to a really nice conversation about books we both liked. It felt easy because we were both enjoying our coffee, and the topic of books gave us something to talk about without being too personal. What about when you're at work? Maybe you see a colleague in the break room and you want to make small talk. A great way to start is to comment on something you both experienced together, like the work environment. For example, "This coffee machine is always so slow, don't you think?" Or, "I've noticed the office is quieter than usual today. Do you think it's because of the weather?" These types of comments show that you're paying attention to what's around you and can help you connect with someone over shared experiences. At my old job, I would often chat with a colleague during our lunch break. One day, we both noticed that the weather was unusually warm for that time of year. I said, "It's hard to believe it's still so hot in October." She agreed, and we started talking about how unpredictable the weather had been. This simple observation made us feel like we had something in common, and the conversation naturally continued from there. Small talk like this can easily help break the ice with people you work with. Now, let's think about family gatherings. These situations are a bit different because you might be talking to people you don't see often, but small talk can still be helpful. Imagine you're at a family reunion and you're talking to someone you haven't seen in years. You could ask, "How have you been since we last met?" Or, "I heard you've been traveling a lot. Where have you gone?" These questions help show that you care and want to know more about their life since the last time you met. I remember attending a family gathering and I hadn't seen my cousin in a long time. I asked her, "How's everything going? What have you been up to?" She shared that she had recently moved to a new city, and we ended up talking about how different life was in that new place. This conversation gave us a chance to reconnect and catch up, and it all started with a simple, open-ended question. Small talk doesn't always have to be about the big things either. Sometimes it's the little things that can help start a conversation. For instance, you could ask someone, "What did you do this weekend?" Or, Do you have any plans for the holidays? These questions are great because they open the door for people to talk about what they enjoy doing, and they don't require a lot of effort to answer. I remember meeting someone at a friend's barbecue, and we had just finished eating. I asked him, "What's your favorite way to spend your weekend?" He told me that he loved going to the park with his dog, and I mentioned that I liked hiking in the mountains. We had an interesting conversation about outdoor activities, and it all started with a question about weekends. It was a simple question, but it helped us find a topic we both enjoyed discussing. Another place where small talk is helpful is when you're in line at the grocery store. While waiting, you can start a conversation with someone by commenting on something around you, like, "The store seems really busy today," or "I see they have a new section for organic foods. Have you tried anything from there?" You'd be surprised at how these little comments can open the door for a conversation. People often feel more comfortable talking about things they see around them, like products or sales, than about more personal topics. It's a great way to make a quick connection with someone. I once found myself in line behind a person who was picking out fruits and vegetables. I noticed that they were buying a lot of tomatoes, and I couldn't help but ask, "Are you making a big meal tonight?" She smiled and said, "Yes, I'm making a tomato-based pasta sauce." That simple question led to a nice conversation about cooking, and we even shared some of our favorite recipes. It was easy, and it helped us both feel more comfortable in what could have been a quick, quiet moment. Small talk can also help when you're traveling. Whether you're on a bus, in a taxi, or at an airport, you're likely to meet new people who are in the same situation as you. You could say something like, "Is this your first time here?" Or, "How long is your flight?" These types of questions are easy to answer and often lead to further conversations. Traveling is something many people have in common, so it's a great way to bond with others. When I was traveling to a different country, I struck up a conversation with the person sitting next to me on the plane. I asked, "Is this your first time flying to this city?" He told me that he was visiting family, and we started talking about places to visit in the city. It felt natural because we both had the shared experience of traveling, and that helped us connect, even though we were strangers. In all these situations, remember that the key to successful small talk is to be friendly, show interest in the other person, and keep things light. Don't worry too much about having the perfect thing to say. The goal is to practice and get more comfortable with talking to others. The more you practice, the easier it becomes, and soon you'll find yourself making connections wherever you go. Another great way to keep the conversation going is by asking questions that require more than just a yes or no answer. For instance, instead of asking, "Do you like reading?" you could ask, "What kind of books do you enjoy reading?" This gives the person more space to share their thoughts and can lead to a deeper, more meaningful conversation. Once, I was at a friend's house, and I started talking to someone about reading. Instead of asking, "Do you like reading?" I asked, "What was the last book you read?" That question led to a long discussion about the types of books we liked, and we ended up sharing book recommendations. It wasn't a complicated conversation, but it was an enjoyable exchange that helped us learn more about each other. Another technique that can help with small talk is mirroring the other person's energy and pace. If they are speaking slowly and thoughtfully, try to match their pace. If they seem enthusiastic and excited, you can respond with the same energy. Mirroring helps make the conversation feel more natural and comfortable. People usually feel more at ease when the conversation flows smoothly, and mirroring can help with that. At a recent work event, I was speaking with a colleague who was very excited about a new project they were working on. They were speaking quickly and with lots of enthusiasm, so I made sure to match their energy. I nodded and asked questions, showing that I was just as excited about the topic. This helped the conversation feel balanced, and we ended up discussing ideas for the project for a while. By mirroring their energy, I was able to connect with them better. It's also important to remember that even if you don't know much about a certain topic, you can still ask questions and learn. You don't need to be an expert on everything. Just showing curiosity and a willingness to listen will go a long way. If someone is talking about something you don't know much about, you could say something like, "That sounds interesting. Could you tell me more about it?" This keeps the conversation going and shows that you're engaged. I remember once talking to someone who was an expert in photography. I didn't know much about it, but I was curious, so I asked, "What's the best camera to start with if you're new to photography?" This led to a great conversation about photography, cameras, and tips for beginners. Even though I wasn't an expert, I learned a lot from that conversation, and it was a wonderful way to practice English while learning something new. Let's continue to explore how making small talk can be helpful in even more situations, and dive deeper into how you can build connections and improve your English skills through these simple conversations. As we go along, think about how you could apply these examples to your everyday life, whether you're in a new place, meeting new people, or just enjoying a casual interaction. When you're at a park, for example, there are many opportunities to start small talk. Imagine you're walking your dog, and you see someone with a dog of their own. You could say, "Your dog looks so friendly. What breed is it?" Or, "I've been thinking about getting a dog. Do you have any advice?" These kinds of questions are simple, but they help you connect with others in a natural way. People love talking about their pets, and you can bond over shared experiences. A few months ago, I was at the park with my dog, and I met another dog owner. I asked her, "What kind of dog is that?" And we started talking about how our dogs loved playing in the park. She shared some tips on training, and I told her about the funny things my dog had done. The conversation was light, easy, and a great way to practice both speaking and listening. Now, imagine you're at the gym. Many people are there to focus on their fitness goals, but small talk can still be a great way to connect. You might notice someone using equipment next to you and say something like, "How long have you been coming to the gym?" "I just started." Or if you're both doing similar exercises, you could ask, "How do you like that machine? Is it good for building strength?" These types of questions can be helpful and friendly, and they can make people feel more at ease during their workout. I've had similar conversations at the gym. One day, I was using a treadmill next to another person, and I casually asked, "How do you like this treadmill compared to the others?" That led to a conversation about different types of machines and fitness routines, and it made the whole workout feel more enjoyable. It wasn't a deep conversation, but it helped make the time pass more quickly and allowed me to meet someone new. Another scenario where small talk can be helpful is when you're at a party or social event. These situations can sometimes feel awkward if you don't know many people, but small talk can help you feel more comfortable. You might start by saying, "How do you know the host?" Or, "This is such a nice place. Have you been here before?" These kinds of questions are great because they don't require a lot of personal information and help you find common ground with the people around you. I remember going to a party where I didn't know anyone very well. I approached a small group and asked, "How do you know the host?" That led to a friendly conversation where people shared how they met the host and what brought them to the party. It was a simple question, but it helped me make new connections and feel more relaxed in the new environment. Another great way to practice small talk is when you're shopping. Imagine you're at a grocery store and you see someone with a basket full of fresh vegetables. You might ask, "Are you making something healthy for dinner?" Or, "I'm always looking for new recipes. Do you have any good ones with those ingredients?" These questions are simple and easy to ask, and they can lead to conversations about food, cooking, and other everyday topics. Once I was shopping for vegetables at a market, and I noticed someone picking up a bunch of fresh tomatoes. I said, "Those tomatoes look great. Do you have a favorite recipe you use them in?" She smiled and shared her favorite tomato-based soup recipe, and we started talking about other ingredients we like to use in cooking. Even though it was a short conversation, it was a good way to practice asking questions and learning about someone else's experiences. Now, let's think about how small talk can work in your daily routine. Sometimes we interact with strangers in places where we go often, like at the bus stop or in a coffee shop. For example, when you're at the bus stop, you could say, "Do you take this bus every day?" Or, "Do you know if the bus is on time today?" These simple questions are great because they help you start a conversation with someone without putting them on the spot. One day I was waiting for a bus when I noticed a woman next to me looking at her watch. I said, "Do you know if the bus is running late today?" She looked up and said, "I think it's running a little behind." From there, we started talking about how traffic was affecting the bus schedule, and it ended up being a pleasant conversation. These short exchanges are perfect for practicing small talk because they're low pressure and easy to start. Speaking of bus stops, let's also think about public transportation in general. If you're taking the subway or a train, you could ask questions like, "Do you ride this train often?" Or, "How long does it usually take to get to your stop?" People on public transport often don't mind small talk, especially when everyone is stuck in the same situation. These questions can help you practice English while connecting with people around you. I once found myself sitting next to someone on the subway, and I decided to ask, "Do you ride this train every day?" That led to a conversation about the commute and how busy the train could get during rush hour. We both had similar experiences, and it made the ride feel shorter. It was a simple and easy way to start a conversation with someone. Another situation where small talk is useful is when you're traveling, whether it's in a taxi, on a plane, or in a hotel lobby. For example, you could ask the taxi driver, "How long have you been driving for this company?" Or, "Is this your first time in the city?" This shows interest in their experience and can lead to a pleasant conversation. It's also a great way to learn more about the place you're visiting. On one of my trips, I asked a taxi driver, "How long have you been driving in this city?" He told me that he had been driving for over 10 years and shared some interesting facts about the city. We talked about popular tourist spots and hidden gems that I hadn't heard of before. It was a nice, friendly conversation, and it made me feel more connected to the place I was visiting. At the hotel, you could ask the receptionist, "What's the best part of the city to visit?" Or, "Can you recommend a good place to eat nearby?" These questions help you connect with the people working in the area, and they often give you valuable tips and advice. It's also an opportunity to practice your English by asking. When I stayed at a hotel, I asked the receptionist, "Can you recommend a good place for breakfast near here?" She suggested a great cafe just down the street, and we had a short conversation about the area. It was a nice way to learn more about the place while practicing my English. In these everyday scenarios, remember that the key to small talk is to keep things light, friendly, and engaging. Even though it's called small talk, it can help build connections and improve your speaking and listening skills. With just a little effort and a few simple questions, you can start conversations that make you feel more comfortable and confident when speaking English. Plus, each time you engage in small talk, you get better at listening and understanding others, which makes it easier to have even longer conversations in the future. One thing to keep in mind is that small talk doesn't always need to be about asking questions. You can also make comments or observations about things around you, just like I did with the weather or the park. For example, you might say, "It looks like it's going to rain soon," or "This place is really busy today." These comments can also start conversations and help you practice speaking in different situations. Another great way to improve your English with small talk is to focus on learning new vocabulary. As you engage in conversations, you might hear new words or phrases that you can use in the future. Don't be afraid to ask people about words or expressions you don't understand. For example, if someone says, "This coffee is so strong," and you're not sure what they mean, you could ask, "What does strong coffee mean?" This helps you learn more vocabulary while also practicing your listening and speaking skills. The more you practice small talk, the easier it becomes to make friends and feel confident in your conversations. Whether you're talking to a stranger at a bus stop, a colleague at work, or someone you meet while traveling, small talk is a powerful tool for improving your English and building connections with others. Don't worry about making mistakes. Just enjoy the process and keep practicing. Over time, you'll find that you're not just improving your English, but also learning new things from the people you talk to. Let's continue by exploring even more ways small talk can be useful, while diving deeper into real-life situations and learning how to handle them with confidence. Small talk is not just a tool for practice, but also an essential skill that can help you build relationships, feel more comfortable in new environments, and improve your overall English communication. Imagine you're at a coffee shop. The aroma of fresh coffee fills the air, and the place is bustling with people. You might be sitting at a table, enjoying your drink, when you notice someone sitting nearby. You could start by saying, "The coffee here is really good, isn't it?" Or, "Do you come here often? It's my first time." A comment like this can easily lead to a conversation where you talk about different coffee blends, the atmosphere of the shop, or the kind of drinks you like. People are often happy to talk about simple, everyday things like this, and it makes for a great way to practice English. I've had this kind of small talk myself. A while ago, I was in a coffee shop and asked a woman sitting next to me, "Is this your first time here?" She smiled and said yes, and we started talking about our favorite coffee spots around the city. We shared some recommendations, and the conversation made me feel more connected to the place. Plus, I got to practice asking and answering questions, all while learning new vocabulary related to coffee and cafes. It was a nice way to enjoy the moment and practice my English without pressure. Now, let's think about public places like grocery stores. Going shopping is another excellent time for small talk. Imagine you're in the produce section and you see someone picking out fruits or vegetables. You could ask, "Do you know what's the best way to store these apples?" Or, "I'm looking for something healthy to make for dinner. Do you have any suggestions?" Asking for advice on everyday tasks, like shopping for food, is a great way to start a conversation that feels natural and easy. I remember a time when I was shopping for fruits and I saw a man picking out oranges. I casually asked, "Are these oranges sweet? I've never tried them before." He gave me a great recommendation, and we ended up talking about different fruits we like to buy. Small talk like this can help you feel more at ease and help you improve both speaking and listening skills, while also learning new vocabulary related to food and shopping. Now, let's move on to talking about the weather. This might sound like a common topic, but it's a great way to break the ice with someone, especially if you don't know them very well. If you're outside, waiting for a bus, or sitting at a park bench, you could say, "It's such a nice day today. Do you think it'll rain later?" Or, "It's really hot today, isn't it?" Weather talk is easy, non-threatening, and often leads to longer conversations. People generally enjoy talking about the weather because it's something everyone experiences, and it's a great way to connect. One afternoon, I was waiting for a bus when I turned to the person next to me and said, "It's such a nice day today, isn't it?" She smiled and agreed, and we started talking about how long we'd been waiting and what we were doing later in the day. It wasn't a deep conversation, but it was a pleasant one. This kind of small talk helps you practice speaking and listening, and it can lead to more conversations, even if it's just a quick exchange. It also shows that you're comfortable making observations and connecting with people, which is a great way to boost your confidence. Let's take another example, this time at a bookstore. Bookstores are filled with people who love reading, so it's the perfect place for small talk. You could ask, "I'm looking for a good mystery novel. Do you have any recommendations?" Or, Have you read any good books recently? People often love sharing their book recommendations, and it's a great way to start a conversation about something that interests you both. Even if you don't know the person well, asking for book suggestions can make them feel like you share a common interest. I once asked someone in a bookstore for a recommendation. I said, "I'm looking for something to read. Do you have any favorite books?" The person was happy to share their recommendations, and we started talking about the types of books we like to read. It was a simple conversation, but it helped. We practiced asking for advice, listening carefully, and sharing my thoughts. It was also a way to bond over something we both enjoyed, reading. Another example comes from the workplace. Small talk at work can be just as important as it is in other situations. For instance, when you're at the office or meeting a colleague for the first time, you might say, "How was your weekend? Do you have any fun plans for the next one?" Or, "I saw you were working on that big project last week. How's it going?" These kinds of questions help you learn more about the people you work with, and they also help create a positive, friendly atmosphere in the workplace. People enjoy talking about their weekends, hobbies, or work projects, so it's an easy way to start a conversation. I've had small talk with my colleagues many times, especially after returning from a weekend. I asked one colleague, "Did you do anything fun over the weekend?" That led to a conversation about his favorite hobbies, and we ended up talking about a project we were both working on. It was a casual and comfortable conversation, but it helped us build a stronger connection, and I also got to practice my listening skills by hearing about his experiences. It's also important to consider small talk in other social situations, like community events or casual gatherings. Whether you're attending a neighborhood barbecue or a casual get-together with friends of friends, small talk helps you feel more comfortable. You might ask, "How do you know the host?" Or, "This is such a nice event. Have you been to one like this before?" These questions help you learn more about the people around you, and they can help make the atmosphere feel more relaxed and friendly. A few weeks ago, I went to a neighborhood event where I didn't know many people. I asked someone, "How do you know the host?" We ended up talking about the neighborhood and shared some stories about the area. It wasn't a long conversation, but it helped me feel more at ease and gave me a chance to practice speaking in a SOC. Now, imagine you're in a public transportation setting, like on a bus or a train. Small talk in these environments can make the time pass more quickly and help you connect with people. For example, you could ask, "Do you usually take this bus? I'm new to this route." Or, "Is this your regular train stop?" People often don't mind talking about their daily commutes, and it's a great way to ask for advice about public transport, while also learning new vocabulary related to travel. One time, I was on a train and asked someone, "Is this your regular train?" They smiled and said, "Yes, I take it every day." From there, we started talking about the best times to travel and how to avoid the busiest trains. It was a great way to learn more about the area and practice speaking in an everyday situation. The key to small talk is that it can happen anywhere, at any time, and with anyone. It's not about making a deep or complicated conversation, but rather finding ways to connect with others in an easy, approachable way. Whether it's about the weather, food, or hobbies, small talk helps you practice speaking, improve your vocabulary, and feel more confident in your English skills. Each time you engage in small talk, you get better at understanding others and expressing yourself in English. Small talk might feel a bit intimidating at first, but with practice, it becomes easier and more natural. And remember, it doesn't have to be perfect. The goal is to practice and enjoy the process of connecting with others in English. Each conversation is a step toward becoming more fluent and comfortable with the language. So, the next time you're in a situation where you can make small talk, take a deep breath and give it a try. You'll be surprised at how much you can learn and how many new people you can meet. Imagine you're at the park, sitting on a bench enjoying the sun. A person nearby might be walking their dog or sitting by themselves. You could start with something as simple as, "What a beautiful day it is. Do you come here often?" Or, if you see them with a dog, "What's your dog's name?" People love talking about their pets, so this could easily turn into a longer conversation about dogs, parks, or even favorite activities to do outdoors. One time, I was sitting in a park and saw someone walking their dog. I said, "Your dog looks so friendly, what's his name?" This small question led to a full conversation about the breed of the dog, where she had adopted him, and how they enjoy walking in the park every afternoon. It was a simple, easy conversation, but it helped me practice speaking and listening while also getting to know someone a little better. It's moments like these that show how small talk can be a great tool to connect with others, even when you're just enjoying a peaceful moment outside. Now, think about a situation where you're at the gym. Maybe you see someone lifting weights or stretching nearby. You could start by saying, "Hey, I noticed you were using that machine. Is it good for beginners?" Or, "I'm new to this gym. How long have you been coming here?" Talking about shared experiences at the gym, like workout routines or fitness goals, is an easy way to begin a conversation. It's also a good way to build your confidence in speaking because the topic is something everyone can relate to. I remember one time at the gym when I was just starting out. I saw someone using a piece of equipment I wasn't familiar with. So I asked, "What's that machine called? Is it good for building strength?" The person was kind and explained how to use it properly. And from there, we talked about different workout plans and how we both stay motivated. It was a casual chat, but it gave me the opportunity to practice speaking English in a setting where everyone is usually focused on their fitness. It helped me feel more comfortable at the gym, while also practicing important vocabulary related to fitness and exercise. Another setting where small talk can be useful is during travel. Whether you're on a bus, a plane, or in an airport, there are plenty of opportunities to make small talk with people around you. You could ask, "Is this your first time visiting this city?" Or, "How long are you staying here?" Travel conversations are often light and easy because people are usually in a good mood, excited about their trip. Plus, they might have great tips for you about the city or share interesting stories about their travels. I once met a traveler on a plane who was heading to the same city I was visiting. I asked, "Is this your first time visiting here?" The person replied that it was their first time, and we ended up sharing tips about the city, things to do, and places to eat. It was a very relaxed conversation that gave me the chance to practice my listening and speaking, while also learning useful vocabulary about travel and tourism. Let's move on to a situation many people experience. Waiting in line. Whether you're waiting at a store, at a coffee shop, or even at the post office, small talk is a great way to pass the time. You could say, "The line is so long today, isn't it?" Or, "Do you know if this store has any discounts this week?" These types of questions are simple and easy to ask, and they can quickly start a conversation with someone nearby. People often don't mind chatting while waiting, so this is a great opportunity to practice your English. A while ago, I was waiting in line at a supermarket when I noticed the person ahead of me had a lot of fruit. I casually said, "Looks like you're getting a lot of healthy food today. Are you making a big meal?" They smiled and explained they were making a fruit salad. We ended up talking about healthy recipes, and I learned a few new ideas for meals. It was a short conversation, but it was perfect for practicing small talk in a relaxed setting while learning new words related to food and cooking. Another great opportunity for small talk is when you're doing everyday chores, like at the laundromat or in a waiting room. Sometimes it's easy to feel awkward during these moments, but small talk can help break the ice. If you're at the laundromat, for example, you might say, "How long does it usually take for the washers to finish?" Or, "Do you know if this machine works well?" People in these situations are often open to casual conversations, and it's a great way to practice speaking in a natural setting. I've had several conversations at the laundromat myself. I once asked a person, "Do you know if these dryers work well? I'm new here." They happily gave me advice on which machines to use and shared some tips about the laundry service. From there, we talked about how often we do laundry and the best times to visit the laundromat. It was a simple conversation, but it helped me practice both speaking and listening skills while learning some new words about laundry. Let's now consider a situation at a restaurant. Small talk in a restaurant can be easy and enjoyable. You could start by asking the waiter, "What do you recommend from the menu?" Or, "Is this dish spicy? I'm not very good with spicy food." If you're at a table with other people, you could say, "This restaurant is nice. Have you been here before?" Or, "What's your favorite dish here?" These types of questions can lead to friendly conversations, and you get the chance to learn about food, restaurants, and cultural preferences. I remember a time when I was at a new restaurant and asked the waiter, "What's the most popular dish here?" He told me about a special soup, and I ordered it. Afterward, I asked him, "Is this soup a traditional dish here?" He was happy to tell me about the local food culture, and we talked about different foods from other countries. It was a great way to practice speaking English while learning about the local food scene. Another time, I had small talk with someone sitting at the table next to me. We started talking about the restaurant's atmosphere and the menu. The conversation led to us sharing some funny stories about our past experiences at other restaurants, and before I knew it, we had been talking for over 15 minutes.